So, welcome everybody to this month's book club, and a slightly longer period to read the book. Two things: one, Christmas got in the way, and two, it was a very long book, so I think it needed a little bit longer to actually get through it. So, our book of the month is here. Let me just put that in there so I can actually see everybody. Actually, okay. Let's see everybody coming through now. So good. So for those that I think you've all been on book club before, but this is our purpose, to make sure that we can have a target to read, continue our personal development. Good way to sort of reflect on things that we learn and obviously pick up on what other people have learned, because we can read the same chapter. I might pick one thing up and somebody else will pick something completely different or have a different opinion of how it works. So, and build a bit of sort of community as well. So get everyone sort of working together. And just as a little thing, that we had our UK conference last night. Still on Zoom, so which is a bit unfortunate, but good that I could do it in my front room. And I just want to say thanks to everybody, because I was awarded the Coach of the Year for the second year in a row for our region. So that was really good.
Congratulations.
And the competition is getting a bit tougher. So, but it was a bit of a surprise. I didn't think I'd win it last year, but to win it sort of twice in a row is brilliant. So thank you for your help in that, and your feedback on the surveys that we do, and and commitment to things like book club as well really helps to keep me at the top of my game as well. So that's our purpose. So our book of the month this month is Robert Cialdini's book. We were just saying, for those that come in, the book I've got, which I've had I think since probably 2010, something like that. I think I first read it, was published in 2007 and was some 300 pages, and I didn't realise until after I'd actually ordered it for everybody else that the new one is about nearly 600 pages. So you've read twice as much as I've read, so I'm expecting a lot of insights I haven't found. But I did listen to the modern audio, so hopefully I won't be too far behind. So this is a very bad picture of Mr. Cialdini. So a little bit like Jim Collins, for those that have read any of his stuff. Very much from the research phase. He's not a business person. But he's studied this. It's that empirical data that he's put into it, and obviously over the years he keeps adding to the book. So why write 10 books when you can actually write one book 10 times and just keep adding to it? So keep it fresh. And as we were talking about before, I think your book brings up COVID into the latest one as well. So it really is sort of bang up to date, which is really good to see. So we've got these sort of 8-9 chapters. So I'm just going to go through one at a time. I think I've got it in the same order as you have. Let's say my chapters are in a slightly different order from my book. But I think I did take the later book as my reference point. So I suppose chapter 1 is more like an introduction, setting the scene. Talks, his first quote, Albert Einstein: "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." So what was our thoughts on this sort of setting the scene chapter? Anything sort of jump out to us on that one? So hello, Steve. Nice to see you. And for those I haven't seen, Happy New Year to you. It's still January. So, is it still January? Yeah, still January. So we're allowed to say Happy New Year. So, anything in my, it's bizarre because in my book it's called Weapons of Influence. So he's obviously decided to tone it down a little bit and call it Levers of Influence. So Steve, what jumped out at you from this very first chapter?
Right, I don't want to go into too much of the other bits and sort of, because obviously you're going to start covering it. I'm just seeing in my notes what I've put. Like I said, I don't want to go over the actual individual sections. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, so generally, as an overall, our actions are based on, I think he has a sort of click run thing.
Yeah.
We're not aware of a lot of the things we're doing. A lot of the things we do are almost unintentional. And if people can manipulate those sort of the surroundings that we're in and, use certain tactics, they can move our actions to benefit them, basically. So as a starting point, it's sort of quite shocking how clever they can be and how effective they can be, basically, with all of these different tactics of influence, for sure.
Yeah. And I did like the way he wrote the book, because he was fed up with being influenced and being sold stuff, and seemed to be a bit of a gullible person at times.
Yeah, I like the way he has every section where he explains it, but then at the end he's got the defense section, so you can sort of make sure that you're not a victim of each particular tactic. So that's quite good.
Yeah. And I was saying sort of at the start, I come at this book from a marketing point of view. So in marketing, obviously we're trying to influence those people, not use the dodgy tactics, but actually sort of say, well, how do we influence people? How do we sort of get them to do things we want to do?
And then sort of in an ethical way.
Yeah, definitely in an ethical way. Well, most of the time. So I think it really is saying that a lot of our actions are at a subconscious level, an emotional level, rather than a thinking logical. And if we can understand that for ourselves, and we can understand that for other people, then we have that ability to influence it and tweak it towards what we're trying to achieve. So. One
thing I did have, I don't know if this goes into the first section, the contrast theory. Was that going into the first section, or was that at the beginning? That was quite interesting.
Tell me about that one. It wasn't on my list, but
so basically he was saying, like, estate agents would show a really rubbish house first, and then take them to a really good house, and they'd want the good house even more. So I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Sort of the contrast between the two is even greater if you sort of, like I said, show them something really bad at first, then the other thing looks even better by contrast. So I think that was before the first section. That was quite a good one.
I think that was, and say we can bring that into all sorts of things. When we're offering our packages, you can show the poor package, and then the good package looks really great value. One that doesn't look good value, one that looks good value. So we can sort of, you can tweak things, because we're always trying to be, slightly better. I think that's a natural driver for most people, but we have to show it, certainly within our marketing. And also, don't forget, we can use this in influencing our team members. If we want our team members to do something, that we can show them that you can either do this really bad job that looks horrible, or you can do this really nice job. Rather than just going and say we could do this really nice job and they think it's not so great. And kids as well. I think there were some examples as you went through of the children's side of things. It was a toys one, which I will come on to in a bit. Good. Anything else? Any other points from this sort of first chapter? I mean, it was a bit of a setting the scene chapter.
Yeah, well, the click run thing just kind of reciprocates all the way through the book.
Yeah.
And the mother turkey, he keeps referring to that, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
How you can even put if you imitate the mother turkey's noises, you can even put like a natural predator in there, and she treats it like it's a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That subconscious programming that we just don't even question it. And it was interesting thing, because in my book, he refers to it as click were, and he's obviously changed that to click run. So it's a sort of a programming system. Something happens and we just do something. It's involuntary. So this is sort of, I think the key for me was this sort of learned behavior. Most of our behavior is learned from people around us. That thinking fast and slow. I mean, there is another really good book actually that goes into that sort of topic itself. It's called Thinking Fast and Slow, about our two brains. Our fast thinking reptilian brain, a limbic system that sort of almost gives that involuntary. Something happens, we react to it. And then you've got our slow brain, which is our neocortex, which has to think and process information. And in sport, you're trying to switch off that slow brain and just rely on that emotional, that reptilian functional brain. But you've got to be able to switch between the two. That's why people at the top of their game have that innate ability in that particular area to be able to do that. And emotion versus logic. Emotion is very much the thinking, the fast brain, and logic is the slow brain. So really understanding, you're going to feel things first, and then you're going to process them. So it's catching yourself when you feel, so if you're being influenced, or does that feel right? Yeah. Do I need a bit of time to think about what's actually happening here, or am I just going to sort of, click were, click run, and spontaneously react to it? Good. So into the meat of the book. So reciprocity. So the law of reciprocity, reciprocation. Bruce, do you want to lead on this chapter then? I do like this chapter.
Yep. I just have a quick look at the summary to remind myself. Yeah. So it's all about if you sort of do a favor, do a good deed, even something very small, it will be remembered, or often remembered, and then often repaid more by the other person, and it can sort of bounce back. I guess it comes back to primitive times, before we had money and cash. This is the way human society worked. So you help each other, but you've got a good memory, so you do a good deed, and then you're looked after by the person you helped, and then you just keep helping each other, and it can that can grow. So all about sort of relationships, and but in terms of I guess in the business world, you can make use of that. So they were talking about maybe at the beginning of your meeting, if you hand out a sweet or something like that, even though it seems so small and silly, actually it can have quite an effect. And sort of, the positive result you get from the third party. So that's what my main sort of takeaway there.
No, I think that does sum it up sort of really well. There's no Damien, you've been to BNI, haven't you?
Yeah.
Network group, but BNI's sort of strapline is giver's gain. If I give you business, you want to give me business. It is purely based on this sort of unwritten law of reciprocity. Good. And what was your take on the Harrykrishna side, Andy? Not I just chose you at random, because I think that was for me was a good way to see it. So actually, how whether they'd sort of done it, the science of it, or they just happened to find that this is a good way of actually working.
I've forgotten the details of that. It's a long time since I've read the beginning of the book. Can't
Can't say I remember that one.
You can't. So Harrykrishna was obviously, they need charitable donations, so they would be around the airports and hand out flowers. So you they'd give you a flower, and then they would sort of they wouldn't ask, but they would put their hands out for a donation, and people felt obliged, and it was a hard thing not to do once you're given a flower, to actually then feel, okay, I've got to give you something.
Yes.
And so their fee earning ratio went up massively. It got to a point that they ended up being banned from the airports because people would give the money and then complain. I felt obliged. I felt forced to do this because I couldn't say no to the flower. And then they said afterwards they would have somebody who would go around to the bins and pick up all the flowers that people had just then thrown away. So they would then recycle the flowers. So, excuse me. So it was a really good. I mean, it was a good money-making scheme.
Yes.
But obviously, with a religious thing.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing applied many years ago when we went to Egypt. In one area we went to, there were kids who were handing out little beads and things like that. And then, what are you going to give me?
And have you been to the races as well? The gypsies give out heather.
Right, yeah.
Looky Heather, love. Looky Heather. Looky Heather. They almost like force it into your hand.
Yeah.
So I just go, okay, thanks a lot. Walk off.
Yes. Yeah. There was
does help to have no emotional engagement whatsoever with people. Being a psychopath really does help in these situations. So.
Well, it's I mean, the tactics sort of described in the book are helpful, aren't they? It's just, identify these things for what they are. And if someone's trying to influence you, and that's what's driving their actions, then don't feel obliged.
So he was pretty strong at the end, wasn't he? He sort of said, if they do it, call them out on it and shout at it. And it's like, okay, it's a bit harsh in certain cases, but
there was another bit that I recalled was the rejection then retreat thing.
Right.
So where you might, for instance, ask for something completely unreasonable that that they're not going to accept, and then you'd then fall back to your original position.
Yeah.
And the fact that you've fallen back is you've given them a concession, and that's like giving, in a sense that requires reciprocity, and therefore they're more likely to agree to what you actually wanted.
Yeah. And if you take that back to the Chris Voss book, the negotiation one, that's what that really was playing on. You come in at a very low offer, and then you come back, and it seems more, palatable. And that's really the sort of in effect the downsell, isn't it? So rather than an upsell, downsell. So start with the most expensive, start with the most, and then okay, fine. Well, that's probably not right for you, so we'll come back to that, and that next one will then feel like a bit of a bargain and worth going for. And I suppose if you think about haggling, that's what haggling's about, isn't it? When you go to those markets and you start off with some ridiculous price, whatever they start with is always in the back of your mind. So therefore, it's like I bought one of those cheap fake watches, and because I've left my watch behind, so I just needed a watch, and he says, it's £100, and I'm paying £100, And there's, oh, okay, well, 90 quid. No, I'll give you 20 for it. But that, because he's put 100 in my head, that's my reference point.
Yes.
And then at the end of it, I paid more than I wanted to pay, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I've been done. Because he'd set the bar and
Yes.
conscious was, well, compared to 100 quid, 40 quid is quite cheap.
Yes.
But compared
But if
to
it's worth a fiver,
compared to my sort of 10 quid that it's probably worth, I've been done. So so even when you know it, it's hard to break out of that. So good. So any other sort of stories that appealed to anyone? There was the German soldier, wasn't there, which was quite good.
German soldier.
Did you not get the German soldier one?
I'll be honest, my memory of chapter 2 is back in the beginning of December. So
so this was the interrogation where he came in and gave people bread and then they gave him the sort of the secrets. So I'll give you some bread, and then they the enemy soldiers were sort of felt obliged then to give him some information back for actually feeding them. So rather than his colleagues who were trying to sort of torture them and then they just shut up, he actually gave them something. I think later on it was the Japanese or the Koreans did something similar, didn't they? They treated them well, and they were far more open in the information they gave. So. We talked about the unfair exchanges, didn't we? So it doesn't have to be, like for like. If you bring somebody a drink, a bit of food, then it can come out. And I suppose, I wasn't sure if he talked about it, but I think when I was doing this, there was the Boris's doing up his flat at number 10. Was the political donations, sort of, why do people give political donations? I'll do your house up, Boris, it's fine, 100,000, it's fine, I'll do that. Where's the reciprocity going to come from? There's got to be something in there that I get back as a result of it, a knighthood or tax concessions for my industry, something like that.
Was this the section where we had there was the guy that would bring somebody a drink during a break, and at the end he would ask for a donation? Yeah,
it was the bought a Coca-Cola, didn't he? Was it the raffle tickets, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he'd bring you a Coke, and then sell you some raffle tickets, and people bought more raffle tickets that had been bought a cheap drink.
Yeah.
Than they would do if he didn't buy a drink. So, to me, it comes back again, if we're thinking from a marketing and a promotion of our business point of view, is the free samples. If I give you something for free, then you're going to feel obliged to give me something back, maybe the full order. So, okay, so we're always thinking, is there a little favor that we can do for people in order to then make them feel obliged to give us something bigger and better?
Yeah. Well, those your clients that you keep taking little favors and never giving you anything back, you soon lose interest in them.
I think it's a bit like the harrykrishna thing. There'll be people that just take a flower and don't pay, but those should be the outliers. But some people would always sort of take the mickey, and then you've got to decide whether are they my A-grade clients. Good. Anything else from reciprocation? Was there anything in the because the reader's report, I think he sort of called it sort of 2.3 and 2.4 and things, because obviously there were some more cases, I think, in the later one. Was there anything at the back of that chapter that stood out?
There was one bit I thought was quite good when he was saying about a free gift is good, but then if you personalize it, it's a lot stronger. So I think the example he gave was one of his clients was sending sort of art postcards of art that the particular person really liked, so they knew it was a particular artist that he was really interested in, so it was personal to them, and this is a way of getting invoices paid quickly, basically. Apparently as soon as she started sending these postcards, they were paid on time every single time. So it's free samples and stuff are good, but then if it's personalized, it's even better. That's quite a good one.
If we I think that's, we had a thing back in the day of supplying supermarkets that, with the credit control people, we would sometimes we'd speak to them and sometimes send them a little gift, so thanks, if they did something, thanks very much for sorting that payment out, just want to say thank you, and here's a like a tin of biscuits or something, because we knew that we would then be at the top of their list, and if there was a problem, they would do something to sort it out. So that was after being owed about £250,000 for, I think, about 3 months longer than we should have been. So that for us is extremely, could have taken the business under, and a box of biscuits actually helps helps that not happen again. So always be thinking, if I can give something, then I'll gain. It is that giver's gain philosophy, that law of reciprocity that is always there. And say for your other half, for your kids, if you want them to give you something, then you've got to give first. And too often we become very selfish in our thinking and our way, and we forget that rule will always apply. Good. So chapter 3 then, liking. That's where I have to jump ahead because it's not my chapter 3. So, liking. Good. So Damien, does your memory go back that far? The friendly thief.
Yeah, well, basically, it's all about if you like somebody, you're more likely to be compliant with them.
Yep.
So makes sense, and I have to say, I thought I already try and apply this philosophy. if you're friendly with people, you build better relationships with them. They trust you more, and it kind of, as I said, it's common sense. And as I read through it, in a number of key places, I could see, especially with my main clients, I could see lots of this kind of in my relationships with them.
Yeah.
So
goes back to that. Your A-grade clients are generally clients that you like and like you as well. So.
Yeah, very much so.
Because the bit in mine was, I don't know if it was still in the later book, was the Tupperware party.
And where and how the person, I didn't actually realize the person hosting it actually got a proportion of the profit. I hate bloody Tupperware. It seems to take up so much frigging space in the cupboard. Ridiculous. But and obviously that model, you're always hearing about this party or that party for some other, maybe not quite at the moment, but pre-COVID, there was always some little group has sprung up, and it's a great sales model. And you're plugging into the liking of somebody else. And well, to be fair, kind of it's a good way of getting new clients, is to get a client that likes you to introduce somebody to who likes them, sort of thing. So yeah, I can see an example of that in what we do. So yeah.
So well, I had a client many years ago that did shoes, and she started a shoe party. So ladies' shoes, and she'd find people who wanted to bring their friends round and look at all the shoes and then buy the shoes, and and then you apply them with alcohol as well, and then that reduces the logical thinking brain. So it was like a bit of a double whammy, really. Good. What about the sort of similarities, where we're trying to find, in that sort of sales process, people are trying to find if we've got things in common, then we're more likely to like them. Such a weird thing. I don't know if you've ever been on holiday and you've come across somebody, a complete stranger who comes from your hometown or comes from Southampton or likes Southampton Football Club or your football club. You got 5 people, complete strangers, and the one person that comes from your own town or you've got something in common is the person you like the most.
Yeah. Obviously, that plugs into some other items later on in the book, like the German soldier and the 10th man example.
Which one was that?
Basically, he's walking down a line and he shoots every 10th man.
Oh yeah.
And he stops on one guy and he's from his own town, so he shoots the next guy.
Yeah, exactly that. It's the if you've got something in common with people, then you can build a far bigger trust and rapport. And if you remember from our when I do the sales training with the trust, need, help, hurry, part of that trust building is commonality. So when you're in a sales thing, if you can find some commonality, which is basically this, then you're going to get a deeper relationship with that person and more trusting, and therefore an easier way to then make the sale. So, and I suppose that's why when we look at marketing, we're looking more at the if we can really target our market and understand our market, then we can talk in their language and we can, get across the message that's relevant to them, rather than being all things to all people. If we can be relevant to that one particular sector, then again, this is what we're tapping into. Oh, they really understand me, therefore they must like me, therefore I can trust them more. So. Good. Andy, anything else from you from the liking chapter?
There was quite a lot in this one, I think, wasn't there? So it talked about sort of physical attractiveness and the halo effect of that. That if you look good, then you must surely be honest, and
bizarre, isn't it?
Any other positive qualities.
I've always wondered why I struggle on those things. Now I know what.
There was the one about praising people and kind of giving them a reputation to live up to. If I don't know if you were after some charitable donation or somebody to help out in some way, then you could say, oh, I've heard how charitable you are, and how you've done so much work for so and so, whatever. There was about sort of building familiarity and activities that that kind of create that bond, and cooperative tasks seem to be kind of a strong sort of bond building exercise.
Was this the one with the school kids?
Yes.
Was that the chapter with the school kids where they were sort of, they were fighting amongst themselves, and then they got them to do something as a team for the school, and then they finally once they had a common goal, they pulled together.
Yes, yeah, that's right. And yeah, there's association positive things as well. So that he talked a lot about, I think this is where he was talking about sort of the language that people use when they're talking about sports teams winning and losing. So my team won.
Yeah,
they lost.
They lost. I love that. That is so true, isn't it? You hear that all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, we won. Yeah, they were bloody awful this week. So.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, the other sort of
But is that,
of that?
if you take that back into a business scenario, is there not a danger there where, when the company does well, we do well? Yeah, when we do badly, or a particular, a department or somebody lets us down, it's they. I think with this, it's become more aware then when we're the they and we, how we potentially using that and actually reinforcing the sort of negativity and pushing people away because they become more isolated because it's I'm no longer part of the team anymore. And if you go to the real I suppose the genetic level, with animals, if a member of the herd lets the herd down, it's ignored and it's sort of almost forced out of the pack. And that's what we can do subconsciously, and that's where I think a lot of unrest comes in organisations. Is people feel that way. It might not be happening, but they feel that they're being ostracised and pushed away from the pack, and then they become far more selfish in their behaviours. So they're not giving, so they're not gaining, and that's where the team can actually fall apart. Yeah, that's good. What about, did you pick up on the good cop, bad cop on this?
Yeah.
Yes, it was the contrast of, I suppose, it comes back to the contrast stuff from before, but yes, in comparison to somebody who is treating you appallingly, somebody who comes in and is reasonable is suddenly your best friend.
Yeah. So I've got a client using that at the moment. We've got a bit of a challenge with one of the team members, and so there's two of them. So we're sort of saying, right, well, you become the bad cop and go in there and shout and scream and lay the law down, and then you can come along afterwards and go, look, okay, he's just he's feeling a bit fragile at the moment, and come on, there must be a way we can solve this. So it's quite a nice little tactical approach to help somebody to overcome a challenge.
So if we ever get in trouble on a holiday with the police, we know what tactics they're using.
Yeah, just don't sign the confession, Damien. Don't sign the confession. So these are some of my key ones. I think you talked about Joe Gerard. If you come across, I use his examples. Top car salesperson in the world. He basically wrote cards to everybody on a regular basis. That was his only marketing strategy. Birthday card, Christmas card, and I thought the I like you card was a bit weird, but I sort of got the purpose. I probably wouldn't write it with that now. So it's a bit creepy, but that whole thing of actually just saying, look, I do thank you for your business, really appreciate it. It just makes people think that they do care. So who's ever got a Christmas card through from somebody you've forgotten to write a Christmas card for?
There's always those people who you end up kind of alternating with them, because you send them one this year because they sent you one last year, but then because you didn't send them one last year, you get one, and then you just go backwards and forwards.
Reciprocity as well kicking in there, isn't it? So, but I've had since we've moved here, I think for about 10 years, we got a Christmas card for the previous owners from Auntie somebody other. No return address or anything. I always felt really sort of, say, oh, is Auntie Maud sent us another Christmas card again? So yeah, good cop. And yeah, that conditioning association, the where the messenger gets shot, it's like because they're associated with the bad news. So like the weathermen, I'm giving you the bad news. Oh, bloody hate that bloody weatherman. And I think sometimes you've got to be aware again in the business is, if there is bad news, good news and bad news coming, then there will be that natural association. And sometimes you've got to overcome that. Certainly if one person is always bringing the bad news in, then their liking is going to go down, and therefore their ability to influence is going to be reduced. So with Andy and Bruce, when the team comes, just get Bruce to do all the bad news, and Andy, you do all the good news, and everything will be fine after that.
Sounds like a plan.
Good. So any final points from jumped out on the liking chapter? Oh, so consensus and social proof. Then I'm just going back. Social proof. Steve, what jumped out at you from this chapter?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a big one, really. I think out of all of them, this is probably the one that's probably the strongest of all, or at least one of them. And it shows that in situations where there's uncertainty, and especially when people are acting in a certain way in greater numbers, the sort of pull for us to copy them is extremely strong, and obviously that can result in devastating situations, like it shows in the book with the mass suicides and so forth. So it's particularly strong when, like I said, if we're in situations we don't know how to act, we'll look around for cues of how other people are acting and often copy them.
And I think that is example of the that sect that he took them to Africa, didn't he? He took them to a completely new environment, and therefore everyone was at their comfort zone, and therefore it reinforced that, right, I've got to be like the people around me.
Yeah, that Jamestown thing was horrendous.
Yeah, I hadn't realised the scale of it as well. How many people could do that? It's bizarre, isn't it?
Was it more? That wasn't that long ago, was it? As in, it was in the last 30 years or something.
Yeah. I think it was the 70s.
All right, okay. I thought it was the 90s, but
90s. I don't know. Not sure there was a date on it. 78.
Wow.
Jim Jones, 1977. But we're seeing this in social media now. It's it's a different level, different scale. But social media is driving this. Certainly on a visual point of view. You think about things like tattoos. How many people now have tattoos because more people have got tattoos. So socially, in my day, the only people that had tattoos, were National Front people and pirates. If you had a tattoo, that's who you would be. But now it's become mainstream, and more people have got tattoos. most of them are National Front and pirates, including my wife. You know, she's got tattoos and she's definitely a pirate. So, but you know, you got the whole thing with people's looks. You know, the sort of the fitness type of thing. So sometimes it's good. You know, fitness, eating well. You know, the green side of things. You know, that we see other people living that way. You know, electric cars, you know, has been another big thing. You know, you see other people doing it, so it becomes acceptable, more people want to do it. So you're right, Steve. I think it is such a big factor in this, you know, and at a subconscious level, you know, consciously, but more of a subconscious level. So did you who picked up on the when he tried to get his kids swimming?
Yeah. His friend was was much more effective than the college kid. Yeah,
that sort of, you know, we relate to people like us, so kids are never going to relate to their parents. So, you know, and also, you know, customers as well, you know, customer demographics, our marketing has got to relate to those people. So, you know, we've got to get across, you know, in our marketing somehow, that social proof side, the ratings, you know, Trustpilot, Google reviews, you know, people like you are doing this thing. What about the Ponzi schemes? I don't know if everyone watch financial services and stuff, but I love a good Ponzi scheme. What's the best Ponzi scheme at the moment that's going on right now?
Crypto.
It's fantastic. I just love it. I absolutely love it. It's like, 100 people are doing it, therefore it must be the right thing, and then it goes up, which reinforces that it's the right decision, and it goes up, and then there's just people that are sitting there going, "Yep, right, that's great. Now we'll pull our money out, we'll make our money." So,
but equally, you could argue that gold is also a Ponzi scheme, because it has some industrial uses, but its main value is just because people treat it as something that they value.
Yeah, I mean, everything really is a Ponzi scheme. You know, capitalism is a Ponzi scheme. You know, why is a dollar worth $1? Because enough people believe it's worth $1.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, houses are a Ponzi scheme, aren't they? I was talking to somebody yesterday about the house prices and things like that. At the moment, you know, there's a scarcity of houses, so we're back to gazumping. So suddenly now houses are worth 20% more than they were worth, because socially, you know, other people are buying it, therefore I must buy it. So, and I did like this chapter where he said, was it with the house or the car? Get 5 people to come and view it.
No, that was very clever.
That was
all at exactly the same time.
All at the same time. Yeah, come and see it. You know, I've got somebody come and see it, but look, I'll see if I can squeeze you in. And then you build a little bit of competition between people. So,
and the way you made them wait, and then he kind of no, it's up for him to make a decision first.
Yeah,
if you didn't want it, it's your turn.
Yeah, but I've got somebody else coming in 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then there's another guy queued up behind him.
So you got to make a quick decision. Oh, jeez. Yeah. I thought that was really good.
Do you think there's an element of that with the group interviews?
Yeah.
Does it make the job more appealing because there's a bunch of people all there, you know, vying for it?
Yeah. I think it does. I think it does make it. I think it does make it more appealing to those people that it appeals to. You know, you're not. If it doesn't appeal to you, it's not going to make you want it.
No.
But if you do like it, then it will make you like it more.
Mm.
We did one the other day, and actually the person that we thought was the best person, who came across really well, ended up not wanting the job. But we ended up with two guys that really keen to come and join us. And I think that's what we're looking for, is you've got to have somebody that wants to come and join you, not somebody's just doing it for a paycheck.
Yeah.
Is anybody watching Succession on Sky at the moment? No. So if you got Sky, watch Succession. It's really good. Really, there's a lot of this in there. It's a story about a family multimedia. It's basically the Maxwell family. I think it's based on the Maxwell family, and you got the father who's a complete arse, and his spoiled kids, and they're all vying for power to take over from dad. But the business side, there's a lot of really good stuff on the business side of things as well. So definitely worth a binge watch. Good. So anything else? What was my list there? So that was the cult side of it. Putting in ringers, canned laughter and ringers to actually fool you into thinking other people are like it. Was it the queue for the nightclubs as well? That was a good little ploy, wasn't it?
That was interesting.
Get people queuing up outside. And if you can get, if you can focus on one person, get one person in, because we find when we're in Spain walking around restaurants, you go past a restaurant, there'll be one that's empty and one that's busy. I was thinking, actually, in a way, COVID means actually the empty one is probably better. And actually, they're all good restaurants, but I can feel myself being naturally drawn to the one with lots of people in it. So you don't have to fight that. That's what he's saying. When he says how to say no, you've got to get a feel. Oh, am I feeling that way? Is this the right thing to do? Am I feeling pressure? Do I really want to buy this car? Do I want to buy this house? Do I want to go into this restaurant? And then catch yourself, and then you use your thinking brain to make that informed decision.
Yeah, but that suicide thing you listed at the bottom, that was quite shocking.
Yeah.
But okay, so somebody else. So there's stories of people haven't done it around here, so it's acceptable. So I'm going to do it.
And the bizarre, I'd say, to that. I mean, he's done the numbers, but when a plane crashes, suicide rates go up. That's weird. So where there's talk about mass death on the TV, then death rates go up because other people have died. Therefore, it's okay for me to die.
Yeah.
So really, very, 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 very deep. I think we get into that level. So good. So authority then. How's our authority, Bruce? You're a good authority man. So, what was your take from directed deference?
So I look again at the summary here, see what jumps out. Yeah.
Shockingly good chapter, this one, Bruce. That's true.
Well, I guess I was just going to see if anything jumped out from summary, but nothing has yet. But I think my take was, if you are an authority figure, then really often there's quite a lot of power comes with that, and people we'll take notice. So yeah, I think an authority figure, it can be very influential. Not sure if it was in this chapter or not, but I remember one takeaway. If you tell people to do something, actually often that can have the opposite effect. But often people like to be able to make their own minds up. I guess you're looking at where we are today with COVID, and and sort of the government's approach with vaccinations. It's always been it's your choice, but there's guidance given out. So I guess I'm rambling a bit here, but I'm probably articulating a bit of confusion, because I certainly remember at one point reading this chapter that a lot of power comes with authority and people take notice. But on the other hand, if you're very controlling and you say you need to do this, when you're talking to a large group of people, that can have the opposite effect. Does that make sense?
I think there comes a point where we don't. There's that independence that we have, that we don't like being told sort of necessarily what to do. But then I would say that would come back from we're not seeing the person telling us has the authority to tell us.
Right.
So if somebody, if two people said to you, don't park here, let's say you were parking in a parking space and two people were telling you not to park here, one was Damien and one was a police officer. Which one were you going to sort of go, okay, right, that's fine, and which one are you going to say F off?
Yes.
So there is that. If they're wearing a uniform, you're more likely to respect their decision, whether or not they're right or not, whether or not you believe them or not. You're more likely to actually respect their what they're saying. Now, you could argue that, well, if I tell a police officer to piss off, he'll arrest me, but it doesn't need to be that. So another situation was another good example. We were out in Spain there was a big market and we were trying to park, and this guy sort of came up to us, and he had a lanyard around his neck with a little badge on it and a little hat, and this was in a public street, and he said, "Oh, come over here, park there." So we followed him, and then sort of came out, and then he sort of said, he sort of put his hand out like this, and it was like, oh, fucking hell, I've been done. It's some random, and I looked at his badge, and it was just like a piece of, perspex with like his name on it and his picture on it. It was not. He wasn't an official government or a council person. He was just some random that was just helping people to park and collecting money for the privilege of doing it. So there was a reciprocity, because he'd actually help us find a parking space, and authority that we followed him, because if it had been some, and we've had it before where you get some, sort of almost like homeless person doing it, and I've totally ignore them. But because he was wearing a lanyard and a hat, I'm programmed to respect that person and follow their instructions.
So one of the things they talk about is your image that you portray. You can the clothes that you wear, or the car you drive, or in the book here it talks about the title you give yourself, that it can have quite a big influence. I remember a couple of years ago, Kevin, there was a company interested in taking a stake in IT dev. And we had some initial meetings, and you said to me, pop down the local Ferrari garage, Bruce, and see if you can take a have a Ferrari for the day, and the guy, it'll all be about image, and it will he'll treat you very differently if you take him out in a Ferrari than if you go out in your Skoda. I didn't get the Ferrari out, but
you got a very nice red Fiat 500 R Bath, which is far more practical than a Ferrari. So. we did that with a client. They were in the same situation, and he said, "Right, I'm going to go out and buy, a nice big car, posh car, to show that I'm not desperate to sell." So there are things, there are status symbols. We can't help but judge. That's where we're humans, and animals are programmed to make instant judgments on things. So we've got to be careful that we're not influenced that way. So just because we see it, we don't suddenly believe it, but also we can use it for ourselves, that we know that people are going to judge us, so we can manipulate that in a positive way if we want to. And I think just the whole thing of the electric shock, the Milgram study, that's such a famous sort of psychological study that in effect authority can get you to a point where you kill somebody, and you've only got to look at Nazi Germany. I mean, yesterday was the anniversary of the Holocaust, wasn't it? And that's the extent we can go to. Somebody in authority says we've got to do something, so we do it. And that's how scary this actually is. That and people afterwards, they sort of interviewed Germans after and said, well, we sort of didn't question it. We sort of didn't think it was wrong, but now we look back and think, God, that was awful. That click were can just take us to points where we can surprise ourselves in a positive way, and make us hate ourselves as well. So
doctor and the advert was also quite
that was good, isn't it? Just because he plays a doctor on the TV, and then he can sort of sell doctor related stuff. It's our subconscious brain sort of doesn't know the difference. And just having doctor in your title, Dr. Chris Whitty, was it Professor Chris Whitty? It's like suddenly he says that, and now you believe him more than you do somebody that doesn't have professor or doctor in their title. So,
I'm not going to say I don't use that.
You don't use it. You're a professor, Damien?
Computational fluid dynamics.
Oh, fantastic!
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Professor Prof Damien. I think you should use it more. I think it's a good sales pitch. So our titles, the clothes, the sort of, the surroundings, that environment can be a influencer. Any other points on the authority chapter?
There was the one about sort of admitting to a shortcoming early on in your presentation in order to establish how honest and open you are, so that when you then go on to describe all the positives, they have more impact.
I thought Warren Buffett was the master of that, wasn't he?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, if you show humility early on, then, and again, it goes, I think that builds, because often these things all overlap. So humility early on will bring in the liking. Okay, here's somebody that is humble, and therefore I'm going to like them more.
And actually, I mean, just these sort of influencing factors aside, just the logic of it. Actually, if there is a shortcoming of what you're selling, that people may be aware of, then actually addressing it up front and explaining why it's not actually a problem is no bad thing.
And that's why you think our political situation at the moment is just crazy. It's like, if they come out and said, yes, okay, look, we had a party, it was socially distanced, I was there, with hindsight, I was probably wrong, and I apologise, we wouldn't be in any of this problem. But it's like, I can't remember if I was there or not.
Yes.
And they know this stuff. I mean, they got intelligent people advising them, and they're meant to be intelligent people. Yeah, that's a bit that is really, really scary. Right, so scarcity then. Damien, what was your take on the scarcity chapter?
Yeah, again, it's quite clever, and yeah, obviously, if there's less available, it does. It makes you feel as though it's more of value.
Yeah.
Kind of, if there's 10 of something available, well, but if there's only 1 or 2 of it, then you've got to. If you want it, you grab it then. Otherwise, you might not be able to grab it.
Yeah, it's that whole FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah,
the fear of loss.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find that chapter. Oh yeah, scarcity. Got it. So yeah. Mate. As I said, it's another common sense thing. I couldn't believe that woman that swapped her bag for 2 places earlier in the queue for an iPhone. That's like a £2,000 bag or something. It was ridiculous, and it didn't actually go on to tell you whether the lady who she swapped places with got the phone.
Yeah,
but I suspect she probably did.
Yeah. It's that you think the whole thing of panic buying. When we ran out of toilet roll.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. I was sitting there going, that's absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that? It's just, we're not going to run out. And then I sort of talked to Jane on it, and she was saying the same. She said, "Oh yeah, but I've just bought a box of 100 toilet rolls." So I've still got 2 boxes stacked up here with about 200 toilet rolls in them. So even though you know it, it's like, oh shit, yeah, but what if we do?
Yeah, you don't want to be caught out.
I don't want to be the fool that ends up with nothing. So
yeah. There's a whole fuel crisis issue as well, wasn't it? The fuel thing. Yeah, people sort of driving in and filling their car up with £5 of petrol. It's like, it is scary how people just do this click word, just reaction to. So anything else? Because it was quite a meaty chapter, this one, actually, I found. Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Steve. No, I was just going to say it's quite interesting what you said. There's the difference between things being scarce in quantity and time. So obviously it's like a double whammy if there's a limited supply and then you've only got a certain amount of time to buy it as well. Yep. So it's even stronger. Yep. I liked the example he said of the Mormon temple. That's the one that I've read this book before, and that's the one that stuck with me a lot. So
yeah,
he had absolutely no intention of visiting a Mormon temple whatsoever. He wasn't bothered, but when he learned it was going to close down, then he's like, "Oh, I really need to go now," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then his mate said, "Well, why are you doing that for?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh yeah, I actually don't want to go, do I?" So it's quite funny.
But I suppose when you go on holiday, is a prime example of that. You go and do things which you wouldn't normally do, similar things in the UK, but it's because it's the only opportunity you've got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of last chance. The pop-up shops are quite good in that. I'm only here for a day. Don't get it now, you miss out.
Well, yeah. You walk down Lidl or Aldi, and they've always got these signs saying when it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. And that's why they do limited edition models. You know, if you think about all the limited edition models, there's only 200 of these. Oh, so they must be worth more. And Porsche are fantastic at doing this. I mean, they make so much money on it. You know, we're going to take away the door handles, take away the windows, take away the radio, and we're going to charge you £50,000 more for it because there's only 5 of them. What? So yeah, so that and you know, you think about all of the stamps. You know, I think you talked about some banknotes, wasn't there? But stamps is about scarcity. Yeah, and that's where I suppose that got go back to gold. Gold is a scarce material. And if people believe it's a scarce material, then it is a scarce material.
Yeah, I read somewhere that like the precious metals, somebody put it into how much there are so many swimming pool fulls of gold in the world, and then so many swimming pools full of silver and platinum, and it almost kind of relates to the price, because as something gets more valuable, it becomes more scarce.
Yeah. So there is that sort of that hoarding mentality that we have, that we're programmed with, which is why you see these hoarders. They're hoarding stuff. They don't need it. It's just in their minds. They don't want to be without it because they've got that sort of scarcity mentality. So that's why we don't throw things away. Or if I throw it away, I might need it. Well, you haven't needed it for 5 years, so why are you suddenly going to need it tomorrow? And he talked about the boiler room scams. I don't know if you watched. It was one of the traitors. Is it Brad Pitt? Where he's it's based on a true story of the boiler room scams, and where they're selling junk bonds, and he builds up a massive wealth, and then finally gets sort of all implodes. But that was the scarcity. Look, these bonds, other people are buying them. We're going to run out. You've got to get on now. Otherwise you miss out. Bitcoin is a classic scarcity product. There's only so many Bitcoin. And therefore it's building its value.
Yeah.
And that's why currency, sort of sterling and the dollar are struggling a little bit, because they're just printing more of it. So it's lost its scarcity value. So if there's infinite supply of it, it has no value. So again, can we build that into our marketing? Can we sort of build a little bit of scarcity? Well, I've only got so much of this. Once it's gone, it's gone. And that can help people to speed up their decision-making process. So Romeo and Juliet was quite good. Would they have got together in other situations? That was quite good. And for those with kids, the Terrible Twos. And you see that was one with the kids, and the barrier put a glass perspex up with the 2 toys, and when they could reach the other toy behind the barrier, they went for the toy at the front. When they couldn't reach the toy in the barrier, they wanted the one that was behind the barrier. So even at 2, they want something that they can't have. The grass is always greener, so therefore I'm more compelled to go for that.
Yeah, but it's like the censorship, the section on censorship.
Yeah,
like if something is censored, you want it even.
You want it more. And that's why they've always said with drugs that if they made drugs legal and taxed it, then there would be less of a demand for drugs. Same with alcohol and prohibition. It's you desire things you can't have, because that's what we're programmed to do. We're programmed to go out, forage, find, keep the species alive. So it's just, these are just natural things in a sort of an unnatural area, so an unnatural situation. So. Good. So chapter 7 then, commitment and consistency, because this was chapter 2 for me, for my book. Andy, what's anything from you from this chapter?
Sorry, I need to jog my memory. I wasn't expecting you to come to me next.
I found this the hardest chapter to get my head around, I must admit. Was the others I thought were, as you said, Damien, sort of common sense. This one was a little bit more.
Yeah,
I had to think more on this one.
I think, yeah, one of the things that stuck in my mind that I think was this chapter was where they were talking about getting people to do a little thing and then it leads to a bigger thing. And they used the example of sort of an outrageous proposition of, can we put this enormous billboard in your front garden? Which,
yeah,
you know, obviously if you just came up to people and said that, they would just no. But they did it by saying, oh, you know, can you do this little thing? I forget what the little thing was. Was it just put a sticker in the window or something? And then they like came back another time and said, oh, now could you put a billboard in? Yeah, sure. Because people they were keen to be consistent with their past behavior, and because they'd agreed to something that was in some way comparable in the past, they felt the need to be consistent with that, and said yes. And he had quite a few examples of how that that sort of consistency principle could be exploited.
No, I'd say that. I think that was the real key thing, that, you know, we do something and then our next action will back up that first action. So, and sometimes, you know, a bad action as well. You know, we do something wrong, but we'll still try and justify why we did it. And I think sometimes when we, you know, can be with employment, where we take on somebody that's not quite right, we will try whatever we can to justify and make that person right, because I made the decision that was the right person and they're proving not to be. So I feel obliged then to back up my initial decision by keeping that person on. Whereas very often, when in hindsight you go, do you know what, I should have just trusted my gut feeling, and they weren't working within a week, so I should have got rid of them in a week.
But that also comes on to the Amazon pay to quit.
Yes.
And I think Amazon do that, and Zappos do that as well. So anytime we'll pay you £5,000 to leave, because if your heart's not in it, then, you know, don't be here.
I think it didn't with Amazon. Did you not say they did it once a year? Because that way, rather than it just being kind of a constant background thing, it's more actually forcing you to make a specific decision. And if you then decide to stay, then you will act consistent with that decision
for the next year.
Yeah.
But I think I didn't pick that up, but that would make more sense, I think. So so once a year, so like anyone that wants to leave, and you do it just after the Christmas party or where you've given them something, and then they said, oh, well, okay, I didn't leave at that point, so I've got to be consistent with that behaviour.
The commitment one, there was stuff around kind of scams where he was talking about it was mainly older people. I think he was saying that would get phoned up and you know the scammer would be saying, oh no, you agreed to this, you said that you'd buy, I've got it in stock now, you've got to you've got to follow through. Playing on people's desire to fulfill their commitments.
and get them to, say sign something, heads of terms, something that shows a commitment to the next stage in the process. Will always, so if they are, you want them to be at a meeting, get them to sign something or send something, so for me, the Calendly thing, the sort of book a meeting, that works really well.
Mhm.
So my dropout for meetings that have got one of those is far lower than where I've just said, okay, I'll meet you at 2 o'clock on Thursday, because they've actually done something and therefore they have to feel consistent with that decision that they made. So.
Wasn't there something about restaurants and how to cancel, reduce the number of cancellations?
Yeah, I think it was just asking them to say, look, if you are going to be late, would you make sure that you tell us? So and get them to say yes, because then they feel obliged. If I don't, I'm letting you down. So. And I suppose, online booking systems help that as well, because they've made the booking themselves rather than phoning up and I've made the booking for you. So, or even send them an email that says, please confirm. Click a button that says confirm this meeting. You're just reinforcing that decision for them. Good. I'm conscious of time, guys. So that was 7. I thought 8 for me was. It wasn't in the first book, and it sort of was a bit of other chapters as well, but it was very much about, we as the shared me, so people like us, and if we co-create something, it has more power than if I just tell you. So that's what I've always said about planning, is when you plan, co-create it with the people, so they're bought into it, so they feel part of it. And find that sort of shared connection with people. That's, again, it goes back to the sort of liking for my book, is people like themselves. So be that. I thought
the yawning thing, and that was quite interesting, that if you like somebody, you're more likely to yawn when they yawn.
Right. Yeah, and if you don't, then you're not affected by it. So. Yeah. And it's true with pets and animals as well. When Jane's horses yawn, then it makes me yawn as well. Whereas you see somebody else's horse, no effect at all. Very, very strange how this is all down at that subconscious level. We're just genetically programmed to do these things, because that's how our species has survived. We work as a pack, we work together. So we've had to create these sort of genetic similarities, to help us through. And then the instant influence, because the world is a faster pace, there's just less time to think. Therefore, we're more likely to do the click word stuff. So we've got for ourselves, we've got to watch that we don't get influenced, but also the fact we can use it to our advantage. We know that our audience are going to be suffering from this, and maybe we can do some things that can help it. But, use it for good. It's like the Force, use it for good, or you can use it for evil, or protect yourself from evil. So feel the Force, Damien. Professor Damien, feel the Force. So a really good, a good book, worth going back to, certainly when you're working with team members, customers, marketing, just even if you just write the chapter headlines down and say, right, is what I'm doing, which one of these am I picking up on? Could I do this a little bit better? Could I influence my target audience more? And what would I need to do to actually achieve that? So it's really helped me over the years when I look at adverts and marketing pieces, to actually sort of think, what chapter of the book am I really focusing in on? So, and our next book is, which I've just got through today, which is another reasonably chunky, but it's big writing, so it's should be a not too fairly quick read, all about a bit more sort of time management, helping us get the important things done. So working on the business, not working in it. So hopefully Jane will be sending that out to you all in the very near future. It's on audio as well. So again, if you want to get it on audio, please do. And we'll enjoy doing that in a month's time. So next one is going to be the 25th of Feb. So 4 weeks to get through this one. And I look forward to seeing you all on that call. So enjoy your day and have a good weekend. And I will see you soon. So
Likewise.
take care. Bye for now.
Bye.
Cheers.